Falangism is a form of fascism popular in Spain. Today, a Spanish Falangist will come on to talk about Falangism. What is Falangism?
In my view, Falangism is an ideology which practically helps everybody in the country. In my eyes, it's an ideology which both helps the worker and the nationalist. In my view, it's pretty much just great for both worlds ideology.
So why do you consider this system to be better than other systems and the current system?
Because I feel like this ideology would really help both sides of the spectrum. It would help both the left and the right in my view, which would make a great middle ground. The reason why I feel this is that it both advocates for tradition, etc., which the right would really admire, but it would also stand up for the worker and such.
How would you plan to implement this system?
My view, at least what José Antonio Primo de Rivera said in his manifesto, he proclaimed that, at least in his time, that it was a revolutionary ideology which would practically only be said in revolutionary. But in my current views and my current view of the world, which is in the 21st century very different than what it was in 1930s Spain, I see it is one of the only ways to actually implement Falangism is, I suspect, either do it democratically or get the support of the workers and the people to actually put it into practice. That doesn't always conclude into a violent revolution, but...
How do you deal with the tragedies of the White Terror during the Spanish Civil War?
You mean the execution of the left on the...
Yeah.
Alright. My views on that is that in any way, it's kind of a return of what they did to a lot of people from the right in that current time. As you can see, there were a lot of people executed for their political views as well. So I don't fully agree with how they handled it, certainly how Franco handled it, but I can see where he's coming from because it was a brutal war anyways. And seeing how the left was not stopping in any inch, I would suspect it's the only option.
Where do your ethics come from?
I believe in a very much way for the support of nationalism, but I also believe that the workers should also have a very big say in the state. And the reason why I believe this is that, at least also in a lot of things that José Antonio Primo de Rivera said, that, the workers are practically what makes the state, the state, which that's the reason why I think they are also a very important factor of it. I believe that equality in the state is very important, at least, for the common man. And that is the reason why I believe in that.
So where does your morality come from? Meaning, how do you determine what is right and wrong, morally speaking?
The area where my morality comes from is that personally, I've read a lot of the Bible myself, as I'm very religious, and I've heard a lot of things of Jesus Christ that he supports the equalitization, right? And that's the reason why I support that, because but the idea of it is that everyone is practically pretty much made on the equal level, in my view, and that's what I've read. But yeah, that's just where my morality comes from.
So in that case, should the state mandate religious beliefs?
I think yes. I think that, at least in the terms of Spain, it's religion is a very important thing that is in our culture, which you may disagree with me, but in my view, I think that it's very important in at least my country, which that's what Spain was kind of built on, in my view.
So in that case, how would you prove your religion to other people? So for instance, say somebody was an atheist living in your country. How would you convince them to believe in God?
I feel like the current status of why people don't believe in God is that, at least in the modern times, I feel like people are simply uneducated on the matter enough, and people may be arguing with me as well, about that. But the reason why I think that is that, a lot of people, even though if they grow up religious, like back in the day, we grew up very religiously knowledged, we knew a lot about Christ and such. And now, like majority, at least what I see of the religious man, at least in the Western world, doesn't necessarily do anything with the religion except, keep it as a label, which that's the reason why I feel like people don't see it as much of a necessity of their current lives.
So in that case, how do you know Christianity is the true religion? How would you know Christianity is true rather than, say, Islam or Hinduism or Buddhism?
Well, even though other religions may not agree with me about this, I see many factors about religion, even in modern times, specifically Christianity, which really shows that it is actually a spiritual thing. If you get what I mean, like it's an actual factual thing. The reason why I think that is that I've seen so many things of that happen, even in modern times, which are practical wonders, which I only can explain as a thing that comes from Christ Himself or God, which I believe is the real factor about it. And you may say that other religions also have these factors, but I feel Christianity in general has so many wonders in history that it should be, recognized as a grand religion of it.
Do you see your nation as superior to other nations?
No, I, as a Falangist, don't see any superiorities in Spain. The reason why I feel nationalistic about it is that I myself feel that my nation should be great. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm or my nation or my people are greater than any other nation or peoples, because that isn't what necessarily I see in fascism or Falangism in general. Which, I mean, I see a lot of people mistake fascism and National Socialism a lot, which we don't necessarily see that ethnicity really is a superiority and inferiority, at least in my eyes.
So would you not mandate any racial group into Spain?
No, I would not. I would simply, not do anything like that, as it really goes against all fascist philosophies. People in history who call themselves fascists have done these things. And the reason why a lot of these did this are either that, they try to be considered one, even though they are much more of a radical sort of the ideology, such as National Socialism, or they were kind of forced back into it because I'd say since the peak of fascism was in World War II, Germany kind of forced them into it. One of the examples which I can remember is fascist Italy, which in my eyes it had racial laws, but I don't necessarily see Mussolini or his cause as racial, as he's spoken against it. And the effect about this as well is that before the laws, I'm pretty sure that a third of the Jewish population was in the Black Shirt Party, at least from the things I've read. So I don't necessarily think that any group should be looked down upon unless they do anything against the nation.
So what would you do about political and religious minorities living in Spain?
What I would do is I try to get them to join our cause, not forcefully, but try them to join us with them. People's ideology, specifically Falangism, which I think that the best way to get the people to join us is with a gentle way. And the reason why I think that personally on my own view is that since we're here for the workers, since we're here for the people of Spain, for the non up the hierarchy, I think that most important thing is that we explain it to them what our real views are and explain to them what we really want for them. And I think that would really work to get them interested in our ideology instead of forcefully getting them to integrate into that ideology.
So what's your justification for the state?
I believe there should be a state to necessarily lead the people. And I've heard a lot of people say that, and you may not agree with me about this, but I think that a state is very important to represent the people, to help the people in need. Because I feel like if there would be no state, the people in need would have no people to actually support them. And I feel like that's very important for like a figure to actually support the people in this country. So yeah, I believe in that.
What are your views on economics?
Falangism is a very leftist economic ideal. We've been considered syndicalist or socialist or anything on that matter. So I think that in that way it should be also handled as that, but still very nationalistic views with it.
Why do you believe in nationalism? What led you to the ideas of nationalism and Falangism personally?
I feel that in the modern time, people look down on nationalism, but I feel like it's a very important factor of a human person. The reason why I feel that is that a nation is something that you practically can change. This goes along with sex. This goes along with race, I feel like it's very important thing, and that we should hold very importantly in our mind. And I feel like in these days and age, people shame themselves for being those races or nationalities more specifically. The reason why we should keep hold of it is that it's practically a big figure of ourselves, and being proud of it is very important. I see a lot of people like gays being proud of their sexuality. They supposedly can be in this day and age, which I don't necessarily advocate for it, but I'm not going into that.
So how would you prevent violent sects from rising in the fascist movement?
The way I prevent them from turning violent is to remind them that the people who we need the support of are the people themselves. And aggression by that is a very dumb way to, succeed in actually getting the power to actually help the people of the state. And therefore, the best way I suspect to do it is most likely remind the members of those fascist movements, to recognize who the real people is who we need to support, who we need to get the support of, which are the people themselves, at least in my eyes. As we could get the support of the military, we could get the support of big people in the state, such as the rich. But the full people who have the full control over everything, the full people who have the full control to start a revolution or revolt or not, are the people themselves. So the important key factor I see in the start of a neo-fascist wave is the support of the people.
What are your thoughts on gender roles, and should they be enforced?
I do encourage that traditional roles should be implied, such as women being more, in the feminine roles, being more for the children and such. Because in these days and age, I feel like more women are going for man roles, which I don't stand fully against for, but I feel like that's going in the wrong direction. Because I feel like more children are growing up parentless, are growing up in more like kindergarten areas, which I strongly disagree with. Because I feel like there should be a factor where a man takes care for their family by working, and the woman takes care for their family by caring for them. And that's what I see as the most important factor of the human race.
Is there a place for gay people within your society? And if not, what would you do about them?
I personally believe that homosexuality is a sin, but I don't necessarily want to do anything against those people, because I feel like that would be against the word of Jesus Christ to do anything against a certain other person, even if I don't necessarily agree with it or he agrees with it. The best thing I should suggest for them is possibly, possibly working on it, but I don't think that we should actually forcefully put them in torturous ways to do it. But I think that somewhere along the lines of rehabilitation should be good for them.
So, in that case, what are some of the things that the state should do?
Keep the life better for the countrymen and the workers and the people in general. Keep the ideal of nationalism alive, and I feel like they should better the lives of everything in the state. It doesn't only goes for the people in that, but in general everything, such as the economy, the patriotism again, the state show in the world. I feel like a great state should show themselves great in the world, and I feel like at least in the Falangist cause, that if we're speaking about Spain specifically, is that one of the big things we have to do is do things that would make the state in a better position. What José Antonio Primo de Rivera advocated for is the reunification of the Hispanic world, and I feel like those things should be the things that the state does. Actually work on that, and actually work on reunifying that, which at least are my views about it. But you may disagree with that, and you may call it imperialist or anything like that, but I think that should also be done in a more peaceful manner instead of invasionary, because I feel like doing that in an aggressive way don't give the good taste for the people who are getting invaded, and don't give a good taste in the international world, which, in my view, I think that invading like a whole continent would be a bad idea and would practically be impossible. So I feel like it should be on a peaceful manner, such as a people's vote in the state, or like having more better bonds to make possibly a union of that. What I also think the state should do is keeping the state well reliant and keeping the state, strong in general. So we could all sum this up in keeping the state a strong state. Be strong in any factor, such as economy, again, the view from the world, all those things, because I feel like that should be very important in the cause.
So would there be democracy in your ideal system?
No, I feel like the state should be strong, but I feel like the people should also have a kind of say in it. The thing what I'm trying to say here is that possibly what my big ideal world would be that a state where reliable people would be voted by the people. I would say limit these choices though, such as in an authoritarian way. You could call this authoritarian democracy. That would be a great way to actually show the people's voice while still having the capacity execute as well. This should also be only reliable for people in, let's say, the only party system, which I agree with. That would be a great way to actually execute it.
Do you have anything else you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I do. I'd like to mention that, again, if you didn't notice, that it's very important to keep in mind fascism in general isn't anything close to National Socialism or anything at that matter. So I try to explain to a lot of people, because personally I'm kind of brownish, olive skin, and a lot of people look at me weird when I say that I'm a Falangist, aka a fascist. And I just like to mention that most fascist movements, at least most correct fascist movements, don't support any actual racial things. That should be noted in more books, articles, and all that stuff. There should be a clear difference between those two ideologies. And there are many factions in those ideologies as well, such as, let's say, anarchism, as anarcho-communism, anarcho-capitalism, anarcho-individualism, anarcho-egoism, and that's practically the same with fascism. You have traditional fascism. You could call National Socialism a type of fascism, which I don't necessarily agree with, but yes, Falangism, integralism, all that stuff. And I feel like we should recognize that more, to actually get a better understanding of this ideology, instead of just calling people fascists and going on with your day.
Thanks for coming on, and thank you for watching. You can find his links in the description. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.